Emma had always been proud of her lawn. It was more than just grass and flowers. It was her sanctuary, a living canvas she painted with vibrant blooms and emerald blades that shimmered under the morning sun. Neighbors often stopped by to admire it. Children played near its edges, and even the HOA praised her meticulous care. For Emma, the lawn was a symbol of calm, order, and control in a world that often felt chaotic. But that peace shattered one crisp autumn morning. Emma stepped outside just as dawn's first light stretched across the street, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. Her heart sank instantly. Deep tire tracks marred the once perfect lawn, gouging wide furrows that ripped through the tender grass and crushed her blooming daisies. Heavy footprints, muddied and uneven, marked the careless path across her flower beds. Her breath caught. Someone had torn through her sanctuary overnight. At first, Emma hoped it was a one-time mistake, a delivery truck gone rogue, or a drunk driver taking a wrong turn. But as the sun climbed higher, the unmistakable weight of intent settled in. This wasn't accidental. It was personal. Her mind immediately flicked to Karen. Karen, a woman whose very presence chilled the air at every HOA meeting, a self-appointed watchdog with a sharp tongue and even sharper rules. She wielded the HOA's power like a weapon, brandishing regulations with an iron fist, and zero tolerance for anything she deemed unsightly or improper. Emma had tried to keep her lawn within Karen's rigid standards, but Karen never seemed satisfied. There was something else beneath her icy gaze, a grudge that Emma couldn't quite place. Emma's phone buzzed suddenly, breaking the silence. A text from her neighbor, Mark. Did you see this? Your lawn looks trashed. Karen was seen driving by late last night. Her heart hammered in her chest. Was it really Karen? Could she have done this? But why? Emma's eyes scanned the lawn again, trying to read the story the tracks told. They were too deliberate, too frequent to be a single pass. Someone had driven back and forth, repeatedly. Then Emma noticed something else, a small crumpled piece of paper pinned to a rose bush by a bent nail. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Your lawn won't survive much longer. Stop ignoring the rules or face the consequences. The message was clear, chilling in its simplicity. Emma's peaceful neighborhood had just become a battleground. As she stood there, a shadow flickered at the edge of her vision. Something or someone watching from behind the hedges. She blinked, but the figure vanished. Her sanctuary was under siege, and Emma knew this was only the beginning. The question hung heavy in the cool morning air. Who was behind the attacks? And more importantly, what would happen next? Days passed, but the attacks on Emma's lawn didn't stop. They grew worse. Each morning, she found new scars. Uprooted flowers, crushed stems, patches of grass ripped bare like a war zone. It was as if someone was sending a clear message, a daily reminder that her peaceful sanctuary was not welcome. Emma's nerves were frayed. The neighborhood's usual calm felt like a thin veil barely hiding a simmering storm beneath. At the next HOA meeting, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Karen was there, her eyes colder than ever, scanning the room with a predator's focus. When Emma spoke about the damage, Karen's lips curled into a dismissive smile. Your lawn breaks several HOA rules, Karen said with icy certainty. If you want peace, you should start by following the guidelines instead of complaining. Emma felt the room's atmosphere shift, some neighbors nodding quietly, others avoiding her gaze. She realized the community was fracturing. People were afraid of Karen's wrath or simply tired of choosing sides. But Emma wasn't going to back down. She had installed a few discreet security cameras around her yard, hoping to catch the vandal in the act. The footage was grainy, shot mostly at night, but it showed shadows slipping through her yard like ghosts, sometimes a silhouette, sometimes just a blur. One night, as she scrolled through the clips, a cold shiver ran down her spine. There it was, clear enough to make her blood run cold, a figure prowling her lawn, crouching low, dragging something heavy behind them. The outline was unmistakable, tall, with a distinctive sharp profile. Karen. Emma's fingers trembled as she rewound the video again and again, searching for confirmation, wishing it was just a nightmare. But the truth was undeniable. The question now wasn't if Karen was behind the attacks, but why? What had driven her to this? And what was she planning next? Meanwhile, strange things started happening around Emma's home. One evening, after returning from work, she found her porch steps dusted with a thin layer of brightly colored powder. It sparkled faintly under the porch light, an eerie rainbow shimmer that didn't belong. No note, no explanation, just that strange, silent warning. Emma wondered if Karen was signaling a new kind of threat, or if someone else had joined the battle, a hidden ally, or an even darker enemy lurking in the neighborhood shadows. Despite the fear and isolation, Emma resolved to fight back. She refused to let her sanctuary be destroyed by fear and cruelty. But the more she tried to protect herself, the deeper she sank into a tangled web of suspicion and secrecy. Neighbors began avoiding her altogether. At grocery stores and playgrounds, conversations dropped when she approached. It was as if the entire neighborhood was holding its breath, waiting for the next strike, or the moment Emma would finally break. But Emma's spirit burned brighter with every challenge. This was no longer just about a lawn. It was about standing up to a bully, exposing the hidden darkness beneath the neighborhood's manicured surface. And with Karen's shadow growing larger by the day, Emma knew the silent war had only just begun. Night had settled like a velvet curtain over the neighborhood, and Emma sat by her window, eyes fixed on the small monitor glowing softly in the dim light of her living room. The security cameras had become her lifeline, the only way to feel safe in a place that now felt hostile and unpredictable. She watched the grainy footage from the night before, flickering shadows, occasional glimmers of movement, but nothing definitive. Still, something about the way those shadows moved gnawed at her gut. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, even when the street outside lay silent and empty. Then, suddenly, the screen flashed, the infrared light illuminating a figure creeping near the edge of her lawn. Emma's breath caught. The figure was hunched low, cautious, dragging a large bag. She could barely make out the outline of a face beneath a wide-brimmed hat. Her pulse pounded. Was it Karen again? The silhouette looked familiar, but the angle made it impossible to be certain. Her fingers hovered over the controls, hesitant. Should she call the police? Confront the intruder herself? Before she could decide, the figure disappeared behind a tree. Emma's heart thudded loudly in the quiet room. Someone was out there, lurking, hiding in plain sight. The question wasn't just who, but what else were they capable of? The next day, whispers began to spread. Neighbors mentioned hearing strange noises late at night, soft footsteps, rustling leaves, faint laughter that carried on the wind like a ghost's whisper. Some claimed to see flickers of color near Emma's property, bright glimmers that vanished before anyone could get a closer look. Emma herself found a new message etched into the bark of a tree by her driveway, barely visible unless you looked closely. You're not alone. A chill ran down her spine. Had someone else joined the battle, or was this a warning from Karen's growing faction? At the next HOA meeting, tension reached a boiling point. Karen arrived dressed in pristine white, a mask of calm and control. But her eyes burned with a fury that simmered just beneath the surface. When Emma stood to speak about the ongoing harassment, Karen interrupted sharply. "You're causing chaos, Emma. Your paranoia is tearing this neighborhood apart," Karen hissed, her voice cold and clipped. "Maybe if you stopped provoking people, none of this would happen." Emma's voice wavered, but didn't break. "I have proof someone is destroying my lawn. I have footage. I want this to stop." Karen's lips curled into a sly smile. "Footage that shows shadows and ghosts. Maybe it's time you stop imagining enemies and start focusing on reality." The room buzzed with uneasy murmurs. No one wanted to openly take sides, but the lines were drawn. Emma left the meeting feeling more isolated than ever. But that night, as she returned home, she found something new. Bright, sparkling powder dusted across her front steps, glowing faintly under the porch light. The same rainbow shimmer she had seen before. No note, no explanation, just the silent, colorful message. Emma stared at the powder, a mix of fear and determination rising inside her. Whoever was watching her wasn't just playing games, they were sending signals. and Emma knew she had to decode them before it was too late. Because now, this wasn't just about a lawn or a neighborhood dispute. It was a quiet war in the shadows. And Emma was caught right in the middle. The sun had barely risen when Emma found the first real evidence that this war was far from over. Her once vibrant flower beds were trampled again. But this time, amidst the broken petals and crushed stems lay something new. A folded, weathered envelope sealed with a black wax stamp, a symbol Emma didn't recognize. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. Stop digging into things better left buried, or the next message will not be so kind. The words were sharp and chilling, but what sent a shudder through Emma was the unmistakable scent of burnt rubber mingled with the faintest trace of something floral, like someone had been burning rubber tires near a bed of roses. Her mind raced back to the rainbow powder on her porch steps, and the mysterious colorful glimmers neighbors had reported. Was someone sending her a cryptic warning or taunting her? Emma's phone buzzed suddenly. It was Mark, her neighbor who had supported her from the start. "Karen's been talking," he whispered over the phone. "She's pushing the HOA to vote on new restrictions. They want to restrict security cameras in yards, saying it invades privacy. I think it's a move to silence you." Emma's heart sank. Karen wasn't just targeting her lawn anymore. She was targeting her safety and voice. That evening, the neighborhood buzzed with whispered rumors and sidelong glances. Emma noticed neighbors hurriedly closing curtains, avoiding eye contact, as if they feared being caught in the crossfire. Then came the HOA meeting, the one Emma had dreaded. The room was packed, the air thick with tension and unspoken threats. Karen took the floor with cold confidence, her voice sharp and accusing. "This ongoing conflict is harming our community's peace," she said. "Emma's actions are disruptive. The security cameras violate privacy and create distrust. It's time we put an end to this." Emma stood, her voice steady but fierce. "Those cameras are the only reason I know who's attacking my property," she said. "I have footage showing someone sneaking onto my lawn at night. Someone I believe is you, Karen." Gasps echoed through the room. Karen's eyes flashed dangerously. "Accusations without proof are slander. I won't stand for this harassment." But before the meeting could spiral, a loud crash echoed from outside. Everyone rushed to the windows to see Emma's lawn in chaos. Brightly colored powder splattered across the grass, flowers wilted and crushed, and tire marks cutting deep furrows once again. Emma's heart pounded as she noticed tire tracks leading directly toward Karen's driveway. The message was unmistakable. The war had escalated. Neighbors exchanged uneasy glances. The silent tension had burst into open conflict. Emma realized she wasn't just fighting vandalism or an overbearing HOA leader. She was fighting an obsession, a vendetta that had engulfed her entire neighborhood. And with every attack, the stakes climbed higher. As the meeting dissolved into chaos, Emma's eyes locked with Karen's. The unspoken threat hung heavy. This battle wasn't over, and the next move could change everything. Emma stared at the wreckage on her lawn, the splattered rainbow powder shimmering under the harsh porch light like a neon scar. The message was clear. The vandal wasn't afraid anymore. Neither could she be. She couldn't rely on security cameras or neighborhood meetings. Karen was one step ahead, controlling the narrative, turning the community against her. Emma needed a new plan. Something bold. Something no one would expect. That night, after the neighborhood had settled into uneasy silence, Emma worked in secret. She gathered handfuls of the colorful sticky powder, the same one mysteriously left on her porch steps, and mixed it with a special adhesive she'd bought online, designed to cling to anything it touched. Her fingers stained with the vibrant hues, she carefully sprinkled the mixture across the narrow tire tracks carved into her lawn, creating an invisible trap that would leave no doubt about who dared to cross her yard again. It was a gamble, risky and potentially dangerous if she got caught in the act, but Emma's fear had given way to fierce determination. She set a small motion-activated camera nearby, one that wouldn't be detected easily, and then hid in the shadows of her garage, heart pounding like a drum. The minutes crawled by, every rustle of leaves and creak of branches amplified in the quiet night. Then, Far down the street, headlights appeared, low and slow, the unmistakable silhouette of a car approaching. Emma's breath hitched. The car veered sharply onto her lawn, tires crushing the powder track beneath. Suddenly, a brilliant explosion of color erupted, glowing neon blues, pinks and greens splattered across the tires and undercarriage in a vivid cascade that sparkled in the darkness. Emma's hidden camera ticked rapidly, capturing every moment. The car spun slightly, leaving a trail of glowing footprints as the driver scrambled to escape the bright, sticky mess. Emma's heart raced. The car sped off down the street, headlights disappearing around the corner. The neighborhood was silent once more, but Emma knew the silence was temporary. The next morning, news of the colorful explosion spread like wildfire. Neighbors whispered in astonishment, some amused, others shocked. Emma watched from her porch as a crowd gathered near Karen's driveway. There it was, Karen's pristine black sedan, now a spectacle covered in glowing rainbow powder, impossible to miss. Emma felt a surge of vindication. Proof at last that Karen was the attacker. But Karen's reaction was anything but surrender. When confronted, Karen's face twisted into fury. "This is childish," she spat. "I'm being framed." Emma's smile was cold. The truth was undeniable. As the HOA scrambled to respond, the neighborhood buzzed with excitement and dread. Some cheered Emma's bold move. Others worried about where this war would go next. Emma knew this was just the beginning. With Karen's car marked in radiant color, the battlefield had changed, and Emma was ready. The morning sun revealed Karen's car in all its radiant humiliation, splattered with the vibrant rainbow powder like a rebellious canvas. Neighbors circled around, whispers and stifled laughter weaving through the crowd. For once, Karen was the center of unwanted attention, and she hated it. But Karen's fury wasn't just bruised pride. It was calculated rage, a simmering storm that promised retribution. She stormed into the next HOA meeting, demanding action, but the atmosphere had shifted. The neighbors who once turned a blind eye now questioned her harshness. The power dynamic was cracking. Emma watched quietly, aware that her bold move had changed everything. Yet, beneath the surface, a new danger loomed. Karen's vendetta was no longer just personal. It was escalating into something darker. That night, Emma returned home to find her mailbox ajar. Inside lay a small, unmarked package wrapped in brown paper. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, revealing a compact digital recorder. She pressed play. The voice that crackled through the speaker was cold and unfamiliar, but unmistakably threatening. "Emma, this neighborhood isn't yours to control. Stop or suffer consequences worse than a ruined lawn." The message ended with a chilling laugh before the recorder went silent. Emma's mind raced. Who else was involved? Was Karen working alone, or had she enlisted others in this covert war? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Emma opened it to find Mark standing there, his expression serious. "I heard the message," he said quietly, "and I think I know who might be behind it." Emma felt a flicker of hope. Mark revealed that Karen had long been part of a secretive neighborhood faction, an underground clique, obsessed with control and intimidation. They enforced their own twisted code beyond HOA rules, punishing anyone who dared to defy them. Emma's eyes widened. This wasn't just a dispute between neighbors. It was a power struggle involving hidden forces determined to keep everyone in line by any means necessary. Mark offered his help, promising to watch out for Emma and gather information from inside the faction. Together, they began piecing together the web of secrets and lies that Karen's group had spun around the community. But the deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. One evening, as Emma and Mark reviewed footage from the cameras, they spotted something shocking, a figure placing another strange powder trap, this time near Mark's garage. The figure's face was concealed, but the way they moved was deliberate, practiced. Emma's breath caught. The silent war had expanded. No one was safe. And the colorful powder was no longer just a warning. It was a weapon in a game far more sinister than Emma had imagined. As the night deepened, Emma realized she was no longer fighting just for her lawn. She was fighting for her home, her safety, and her freedom. The neighborhood's polished surface was cracking, revealing something ugly and dangerous underneath, and Emma was determined to bring it all into the light. The night was thick with silence, but Emma's house buzzed with quiet urgency. In the dim light of her living room, Emma and Mark pored over the security footage again, frame by frame. The figure caught on camera, cloaked in shadow, had returned, this time moving with a cold precision that sent chills down Emma's spine. Mark pointed to a subtle detail, the way the figure's footsteps avoided certain cracked tiles, a familiar gait Emma had seen before. It wasn't just any vandal. This was someone who knew the neighborhood intimately, someone dangerous. "We're dealing with more than Karen," Mark whispered. "There's someone else pulling the strings." Emma's heart raced. If Karen was the head, who was the puppeteer? The next day brought uneasy calm. Neighbors whispered behind closed doors, glancing nervously at Emma's house. The once friendly street now felt like a battleground, lined with invisible tripwires of suspicion. Determined to break the silence, Emma knocked on doors, speaking quietly but firmly. A few neighbors confided in her, revealing stories of late-night threats and unexplained visits. Everyone was afraid, but few dared to speak out. One neighbor, Mrs. Bellamy, an elderly woman known for her sharp eyes, shared a chilling revelation. "There's a man," she said in a hushed voice, "a stranger who's been seen lurking around after dark. No one knows his name, but he's been here longer than Karen's faction. Some say he's the reason Karen's so bold." Emma felt a cold knot tighten in her stomach. The war had roots deeper than she imagined. That evening, as Emma and Mark planned their next move, her phone buzzed with an anonymous text. "Stop digging, or the colors will turn to ash." The threat was clear, but Emma's resolve only hardened. She knew she needed allies. Late that night, Emma received an unexpected visitor, Karen herself. Emma froze, unsure whether to slam the door or listen. Karen's expression was different, less icy, more desperate. "I'm tired of this," Karen said, voice low and raw. "This isn't what I wanted. There's something bigger than us at play. You need to stop before it's too late." Emma's mind reeled. Was Karen offering a truce? Or was it a trap? Before Emma could answer, a sudden noise echoed outside. A loud bang against the garage door. Both women spun toward the window. Outside, the faint glow of the rainbow powder trap flickered ominously. Emma's heart pounded. In that moment, old enemies stood side by side, facing a threat that overshadowed their feud. The neighborhood's secrets were unraveling, and the war was about to reach a devastating climax. The night air was sharp and electric as Emma and Karen stood side by side, eyes locked on the glowing rainbow powder trap flickering near the garage door. The tension between them hadn't vanished, but for the first time, it was overshadowed by a shared fear. Something bigger than their feud was lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, a shadow emerged from the darkness, tall, silent, and commanding. The stranger Mrs. Bellamy had warned about stepped forward, his face partially hidden beneath the hood, but his eyes gleamed with cold intent. "You should have stopped," he said, voice low and dangerous. "Now everyone will pay." Emma's breath caught. This was the puppeteer, the true mastermind behind the neighborhood's nightmare. Karen's posture stiffened, but instead of retreating, she squared her shoulders. "This ends now." In a swift, coordinated move, Emma and Karen lunged toward the stranger, catching him off guard, but he was quick, pulling a small device from his pocket and tossing it at their feet. A flash of blinding light erupted, disorienting them. When the glare faded, the stranger had vanished into the night, leaving behind a trail of shimmering powder that sparkled like a twisted rainbow. Emma stumbled, heart pounding, but Karen grabbed her arm, steadying her. "Don't let him win," Karen urged. Fueled by adrenaline and newfound alliance, Emma sprang into action. She grabbed her phone and broadcast a live video to the neighborhood social media group, exposing the stranger's threats and the secret faction's manipulation. Neighbors poured in, armed with flashlights, phones, and a new sense of courage. The community, once fractured by fear and suspicion, rallied together. Under the united spotlight, the puppeteer's power unraveled. Days later, law enforcement arrived, following leads sparked by Emma's footage and community support. The stranger was caught, his network exposed, and Karen's faction dismantled. But the real surprise came when Karen faced Emma privately. "I was wrong," Karen admitted, eyes honest for the first time. "I let fear turn me into someone I didn't want to be." Emma nodded, the old bitterness melting away. "We're stronger together." In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood healed. Emma's lawn grew back lush and green, the scars replaced by vibrant blooms. The rainbow powder, once a weapon of war, became a symbol of resilience, bright, colorful, and unyielding. And though the wounds of that war would never fully fade, Emma knew she had reclaimed more than her lawn. She had reclaimed her home, and a community ready to stand together against the shadows.